Chalice and Trinisphere. These are things that Miracles can't win when they're on the board.
A turn 1 Cloud Post will lead things off here for Spano. Lossett's going to play a top off of Volcanic Island, and we are underway here in round number 4 of 16 of our Season 3 Invitational. Spano going to play a copy of Glimmer Post. That will allow him to gain 2 life, push himself to 22, and that Cloud Post will be tapping for 2 mana. Looks like it's going to be 3. Now here's a Trinisphere, and Joe's immediately put to the test.
Well, Joe's going to have to force a Will-O-Wisp. I think playing through a Trinisphere is not an option for the Miracles deck.
You know, the trick here for Mud is you present very difficult questions for them to answer. If they have the answers, good job. And if they don't, it's not good news for them. Lossett is going to cast a Force while moving a Counterbalance. You'll notice that a lot of the time he won't remove Counterbalance to Force Will, but it's actually quite poor in this matchup.
Yeah, Mud plays a lot of cards that are very expensive, so Countertop is not a great lock here.
Joe does just pass the turn back as Spano draws a copy of Ancient Tomb. We also have the City of Traders hanging out over there. This is 5 mana. Spano will take 2, go back down to 20. And this is a Kodotha Forge Master, and that's not something Joe Lossett can Spell Pierce.
Right, I was going to say, he's playing into a Spell Pierce, except Forge Master doesn't do that at all.
Time to spin the top there for Lossett on the end step, and we'll see if he can find something that he likes. Again, he is stuck on 1 land right now. But, you know, this is kind of what you talked about at the top. Spano is going to play expensive things that are very difficult for Lossett to answer, and if he can't answer a card like Kodotha Forge Master quickly, he'll just lose. Lossett plays a Scalding Tarn and passes it back over to Spano, who draws a copy of Lodestone Golem. Jeez.
All right, so Lodestone Golem. I mean, there's just a lot of taxing effects on Joe's mana right now. What he has to hope is that there's a lot of air in the Mud deck, and that if Joe can hopefully answer enough cards that he can start getting his card advantage or his top working. But answering these cards is pretty difficult for his deck, as we're going to see coming up here.
Lossett will spin the top in response to the Lodestone Golem. There is the 5/3. Makes non-artifact spells cost 1 more to cast. This would be a good time to find a Terminus, wouldn't you agree?
Right, so Terminus would be a great thing because now Spano has put 2 creatures on the battlefield. So that's what he's going to try and do. Because he's playing Mud instead of Post, so that means there's no, Emrakul waiting at the end of this Cloud Post chain. Eventually there's going to be enough mana that Gregg doesn't have anything really to do with it. His best thing is a 1 of Blightsteel Colossus or a 2 of Sundering Titan. Those are probably the big spells in the deck.
And those are both pretty sweet.
I mean, they're both excellent, but they are 1 spell. They can get countered. Gregg doesn't really have a way to draw them other than just naturally drawing them.
Lossett going to spin that top 1 more time. You see a counter spell there. He's going to show off a Vendilion Click on accident. Lossett, the other card there is the wrong Miracle. It's a copy of Entreat the Angels.
Well, he needs something pretty quick. He's in danger right now of Spano making a 3rd artifact and then just sacking them all away for a Sundering Titan, and that would kill all of Joe's lands.
All Lossett can do is just pass the turn back. Spano will untap and take a draw here. You saw Vasuva copy a Cloud Post, so he's got a bunch of mana on this turn. Looks like he drew a copy of Chalice of the Void for the turn. So this is a rough road ahead here for Lossett, and we talked about it's all Lossett needs to do is just have an average weekend. Make it into day 2. Just finish up okay. He lost his first round, and he has gotten a bad pairing this round. Now there's a Chalice of the Void.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be with 1 mana floating, Chalice on 1. And this is where you see cards like Spell Pierce just sitting in Joe's hand.
Laughably bad. This is an attack for 8. Lossett's going to go down to 7. It's a 2-turn clock.
Yeah, I mean, so there's threats of cards like Sundering Titan, but I mean, there's 8 power on the battlefield right now.
Why change what you're doing? Joe's going to spin the top. You see, again, his deck is kind of metagamed, and it has been for some time. He has a Pyroblast among those cards. That card's not very good, obviously, in this matchup. Has basically no text. Lossett's going to spin his top after drawing a card. He'll consult the grip. You can see a Jace and a counterspell, all that good stuff, but none of that stuff's really going to help in this situation. And due to Lodestone Golem's taxing effect, I don't think Lossett has any way out of this one.
Well, all his spells cost 1 more, so he can't cast anything here. I think, and a turn sideways should do it.
He'll make Spano think about it, and Spano will do it, and Lossett will concede the game. So Gregg Spano does win game number 1 here over Joe Lossett. Mud is up a game over blue, white, red Miracles, and we're going to turn our attention to the sideboard. Now, I've got Joe's sideboard in front of me, and he's got a Pithing Needle, a Grafdigger's Cage, 2 copies of Rest in Peace, an Izzet Staticaster, a Supreme Verdict, a copy of Wear and Tear, a Venser, Shaper Savant, a Red Elemental Blast, another Pyroblast, and Entreat the Angels, a Flusterstorm, 2 copies of Misdirection, and a Council's Judgment. Now, it's not really going to surprise you that there is not a lot of hate in the sideboard here for Mud.
Right, Mud's certainly not one of the more popular decks in Legacy right now. And when you said that this is, Blue Red Miracles it's the attempt at a control deck in Legacy, so it is very meta-gamed in the cards it plays in the main and the board. You said a main deck Red Elemental Blast, not going to be any good here. And I think Mud is far enough from the most popular decks that it's possible that even in his 75, that Joe's control deck really didn't show up with many tools for the matchup.
Yeah, I mean, this might just be a matchup where he hopes to avoid. It did top 8 last weekend when we were in Washington, D.C., but by and large, you're not going to see this deck really put up, great performances. Not a lot of the top players do play it. Now, Spano did top 8 our Season 1 Invitational with it, and he lost in the top 4. So he's very comfortable playing this deck. He's had some success with it. He also made a pretty deep run last weekend in D.C. I believe he topped 16 that tournament playing Mud. So, deck could be pretty well positioned this week, and I do wonder how its Shardless Bug matchup is. If it's good against that deck, you're in a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, it's conceivable the deck has a pretty good matchup against fair decks. It is definitely going over the top of a lot of the common strategies. And we saw stuff like a turn two Trinisphere,
yep,
or Chalice on 1 or something like that, which can really just shut other decks down.
Now, what does Spano have in his sideboard? You have that in front of you.
Right, so looking at Spano's sideboard, he has a lot of different weapons that he can use, I suppose, to get around control decks. He does play 2 copies of Phyrexian Revoker. He can try to hit top that way, but then again, his game 1 plan is pretty good. He may just switch out the kind of things he wants to ramp into. For example, he has 3 Worm Coils in the main, where he has an extra Sundering Titan in the board. I wouldn't be surprised to see that switch happen, considering Joe's best removal spell is Swords to Plowshares. Sundering Titan's much better positioned against that than Worm Coil is. He also has cards like extra Karn Liberated in the main deck, in the sideboard. So I think he's just going to diversify his tap-out threats. Other than that, I don't see too many changes, as this looks like a pretty good matchup for Gregg.
We're going to see how it does break, and as these players do finish up sideboarding, we will talk very briefly about our Autumn State Championships that are coming up here, October 11th and the 12th. Now, I know that August is just ending and September is just beginning, but this is going to be here sooner than we think. Who are we kidding?
Yeah, this is coming up in mid-October, the state championships in autumn. You can find out more of them at starcitygames.com/states. And this is not only is a chance to, to win your state, to win that championship, but the winner also is a qualification for the Invitational.
Yeah, and of course you will get yourself a medal along with that artwork that's on the screen on a playmat. Winner will actually get that artwork black and white. And again, we made an announcement a little bit earlier in the day about how we're doing 2 states next year due to the success of spring states, as well as 2 regionals as well, where you can plant your flag. So Star City Games doing state championships because spring states earlier this year was so well received thanks to you guys playing the tournaments. We're able to run another one as well as additional ones next year. So October 11th and the 12th of this year is when Autumn States will be taking place. StarCityGames.com/states for more information. 52 of these bad boys across the country as we do turn our attention back to the match. And I do agree with you. I don't like where Joe's positioned here at all.
Well, Gregg isn't playing fair on mana right now. If you look at the kind of things he has in his deck, Cloud Post, for example, is a land that taps for 2, 3, 4 mana. Also plays cards like Grim Monolith in his deck right now. So if he can get far enough ahead on mana, he starts making Joe's cards really not do anything. We saw Spell Pierce become pretty laughable by turn 4 in that game. And I think that's where the advantage is on Gregg's side. Joe has to try to keep Gregg playing fair as much as he can until Joe can get his lockdown.
Well, Joe will be on the play here. We'll see if he finds something that he likes now that he knows what he's up against. Playing against Spano, playing Mud. Spano was able to win game 1 relatively easily. Lossett's happy. Game 2 is underway, and it's going to start with a Sensei's Divining Top. Spano will draw a card. You see there's a Cloud Post hanging out there, and that's probably the most important card you can find early in the game. That's really what gets the engine going.
Yeah, so it starts out with Cloud Post. Remember, there's not much wasteland action. There's not wasteland action going on in Joe's deck. So he doesn't have a way to shut down Cloud Post once Gregg starts making tons of mana with it. He actually just has to continue to 1-for-1 answering the spells, which can be pretty hard for him to do.
Joe going to cast a Brainstorm here. Maybe looking for a second land as the Brainstorm does resolve. This is a Flooded Strand. He will sacrifice that right away. So he's going to go down to 19. We'll see what land he does search up. He's been aggressively searching up non-basics, for the short game 1 and this game 2. He's going to get a basic land, though, in a Plains right now. Spano does have Wastelands in his deck.
Yeah, remember, Mud is a colorless deck, is a completely colorless deck. So it plays 6 different lands. It plays Wastelands, it plays 8 posts, it plays 4 Vesuva, which is more Cloud Post, and then it plays both Ancient Tomb and City of Traders in 4 ofs.
Spano going to play a copy of Ancient Tomb. We'll see what kind of powerful spell he has on this turn, assuming that he has one. There's 3 mana. He'll take 2 to generate that, so down to 18. And there's Trinisphere again.
Yep, Joe, the only thing he could have for it is Force of Will. And this Trinisphere is going to get to stick, which is pretty tough for Joe to play through.
Joe's going to spin the top on the upkeep. Now, he has found a copy of Wear Tear. So that'll give him an answer to Trinisphere or a different artifact, depending on what he finds to be the more important of the bunch. But for right now, if you're Lossett, your goal is really just hit your land drops.
Yeah, well, I think he's going to have to Wear Tear pretty quickly. He can't actually play through a Trinisphere. Remember, Trinisphere doesn't really affect Gregg's deck, because a lot of his spells already cost more than 3. But for Joe, it puts Joe on 1 spell a turn.
Gregg has drawn a Vesuva, and he will copy Cloud Post. So that Cloud Post will tap for 2. And now, of course, take 2 from the Ancient Tomb, and now this is a copy of Trading Post.
Yeah, he does have 1 Trading Post in his sideboard, which I assume he wants just for more grinding matchups. Matchups where he'd have time to do that, which this certainly is one of them.
Where is Brad Nelson? Does he know that this has just happened? Joe wants to take a look. We'll do the same. I'm sure Brad could tell us all 4 abilities on this. You do pay 1 to discard a card and gain 4 life. You can pay 1 and tap it to pay a life and make a 0/1 white goat creature token. You pay 1, tap it, sacrifice a creature, return an artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. You pay 1, tap it, sacrifice an artifact, and draw a card. A lot of stuff going on there, but you put it best. Great for your grindy matchups.
Yeah, well, it's like a mini Planeswalker a lot of the time. You get 1 effect every turn. Granted, you're paying mana for it, and it doesn't always do all the same things that a Planeswalker does, but you see a lot of cards like that in Gregg's deck. You know, he also has a Staff of Domination, for example.
Lossett does play his 4th land. It's a copy of Scalding Tarn. And again, Spano's starting to make life a little bit difficult. He does have access to 6 mana on this turn. He hasn't even played a land yet. Draws a copy of Metalworker. So
yeah.
Lossett looks like he's going to do a little bit of drawing action with the top here in Spano's upkeep. Maybe it's draw step.
Yeah, and I'm wondering whether he's going to Wear Tear here. A danger of Wear Tearing here is that he let Gregg untap, which means he's going to get to, if he wants to, he can sacrifice the Trinisphere to draw a card.
Looks like Lossett's going to dig out a basic island, maybe a Tundra, and he will go with the Tundra. And this is all during Spano's... It's either his upkeep or his draw step here.
Yeah, so that would seem to suggest it's a Vendilion Click.
Yeah.
Now, the Mud deck doesn't actually have that many answers to permanents. It has All Is Dust and Karn Liberated. But by and large,
the ultimate answer.
The ultimate answer to every permanent. But by and large, it's trying to ignore them. Oh, well, it also has 2 Spine of Ishsaw.
Ugh. So Spano's hand right now is 2 spines, a Metalworker, a City of Traders, a Sundering Titan, and a Wormcoil Engine.
This is really dangerous. Gregg has enough mana this turn to play Spine and sack it to Trading Post.
Oh, no.
Which means the Spine, if you know the text on Spine, when Spine hits the graveyard, I believe it comes back to your hand.
Yep.
So he will start Vindicating every turn here. And with 2 Spines, Joe can't keep him off it using Vendilion Click. And there's also worry that Gregg will just Sundering Titan.
Yeah, I think
and take all of Joe's lands. That's probably the bigger one.
I think that's the land. That's the card that Joe probably has to take, right? That's step 1. You have to get that thing on the bottom.
Triple Stone Rain's probably unbeatable. So he's going to give Gregg the, looping Vindicates and take away the one that destroys 3 lands.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Spano draws a copy of Metalworker off the Vendilion Click. Actually, one of the more irrelevant cards that he could draw.
Well, if he plays Metalworker, he could maybe start Spining twice in a turn.
Mm-hmm.
But that would have to start next turn. But it's not inconceivable that would make him do that.
This Mud deck is mighty interesting. When it's operating in a good matchup, it's very, very difficult to beat. And this feels like a pretty good matchup. As Spano's going to play City of Traders, access to 8 mana. He'll have to take 2 from the Ancient Tomb. We'll see what he wants to cast this turn.
I think he's going to start looping the Spine. So Spine of Ishsaw is the play. That costs 7.
So 1 mana floating.
Yeah, he can sack it to Trading Post. He'll get the Spine back and draw a card. One of the abilities in Trading Post is sacrifice an artifact to draw a card.
And there you do see the Spine. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target permanent. So there goes the Vendilion Click. And as you did mention, when it's placed into a graveyard from the battlefield, you return to the grip. So that's what he'll do. And he'll draw a card. Oh, the value.
You can run that back every turn.
This might be pretty tough for Lossett to overcome. Vendilion Click, I imagine, was his plan as far as a clock is concerned.
Right. So Gregg can keep doing that. And the danger is as soon as Gregg draws a Glimmer Post or a Cloud Post or a Vesuva, that's enough mana that Gregg can start doing this twice then. He can go Spine, sack, Spine, cast, Spine. And now we're in dangerous territory then.
Now, Lossett did find an interesting card for the turn. He's had a wear tear, but he found actually another copy of Vendilion Click. Now, there's a Worm Coil Engine. That's Spano's draw. He already had one of those. And now he also has a Chalice of the Void he might consider casting. Now, even though things look very difficult for Lossett here, it's definitely on Spano to figure out what's the best kind of avenue to take here. Yeah, he could spine every turn, but really, how good is that? You know, my entire turn is kill your land.
Yeah. Now remember, the interaction with Chalice of the Void and Trinisphere is that if you have a 1-drop, yes, it costs 3, but Chalice on 1 does still counter it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to go ahead and set Chalice of the Void. It looks like...
Looks like it's going to be
2.
It's either going to be 2 or 1. And I imagine it's going to be
It's
1, not
1.
much of a surprise. So that's in. So that means that there's a mana floating. So it might be time to work some metal. And so this allows Spano to go super big now.
Right, so he gets Metal Worker down. Joe does have a Venser here, so he can bounce it. He can buy himself a turn. But I think the bigger issue is that Joe's not making any progress forward with the game, and these hits are just going to keep coming on Gregg's side.
Spin a top will Lossett.
He's not well equipped to deal with lots of non-creature artifacts, and that's what Gregg's doing. So then, you know, when Joe's spinning for answers here, you start thinking, well, okay, does Joe have what? Is he gonna draw Shatterstorm? You know, that's not a card that he plays. He doesn't have like this planar cleansing, or I mean, of course, I'm naming cards that you can't play. You really don't play in Legacy, but you know, he doesn't have something that just blows up all these artifacts.
Oh, looks like he's going to deploy Venser. See what he wants to bounce. Will it be the Post? Will it be the Chalice? Maybe the Trinisphere? Allow him to actually start casting some spells. He's going to go with the Metal Worker, so that's going to go back to the grip.
Well, and he pretty much has to go with the Metal Worker. If Gregg untaps with that, it's just too much mana.
There's an attack for 2, so Spano's going to go down to 12. You know, Joe, it's like, you know, the walls are closing in, but with the creatures that he does have, he can, you know, work his way around things a little bit.
Keep in mind that one of the abilities on Trading Post is that Gregg can discard a card to gain 4 life. So if this aggro plan that Joe's presenting starts to become a problem for Gregg, or if he starts to think he might not be able to win this race, then he actually has that option to gain some life while he casts these large creatures.
Decisions.
Yeah, I believe he drew a land, which is why he seems to set the City of Traders to the side.
Yep.
So we'll see 2 colorless, and there you go. Glimmer Post the draw for the turn, which is pretty good.
That's big. That's another locus for those Cloud Posts, so those are going to generate even more mana. Feels like a big turn coming here for Spano.
So he has 2 mana floating. He has the ability to make 9 more here. So we see 6. So this is a tap of 8. Looks like he's just going to go for the Spine Lock again.
See, any creature that slides through, I imagine he just wants to kill.
Yeah.
It kind of feels that way, at least.
I think, well, if he kills everything, it seems hard for Joe to deal with this. Joe would need a Jace.
Yeah.
And even then, you can spine the Jace.
Yep.
Joe would have to say Jace into a counter spell, counter the spine, and then hope Gregg doesn't have enough mana to spine again.
Yeah, he'll have to get mighty creative to work himself out of this one, but he's certainly trying as Lossett. So again, Spine is placed onto the stack here. We'll see if Lossett wants to respond to this, or maybe respond to the trigger from the Spine. So he brings forward a copy of Wear Tear. So there is your split card.
All right, so Wear Tear being cast here.
Now, no Fuse, of course, but Wear, destroy target artifact for 2 mana.
Shatter.
So, yeah. Good old clean Shatter. Good. That's going after the Post. Okay. So going to sacrifice that artifact to draw a card. Drew a copy of Sundering Titan. Spine's in now.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy.
Post takes care of Venser. I think Gregg will just go for Metal Worker now. And he does. He actually overtapped for Metal Worker there. He still had... No, he used the 1 mana. You're right. Yeah, he used the mana to sack the Trading Post.
Yep. So the set is staring at that Vendilion Click, and it looks like he's going to try to cast that. So going to sacrifice the Scalding Tarn to go down to 17.
And I think Joe made a correct assessment in taking the Trading Post off there. He needs to get rid of Gregg's engine. And once he does, then maybe he can run... You know, he needs to eventually run Gregg out of cards. And I think the start is to get rid of Trading Post if you're going to do that. As we saw, Trading Post plus Spine gives Gregg a never-ending stream of things to do with mana.
Some kind of inevitability.
I see Vendilion Click. He's going to get another card.
I think Joe's going to target himself.
Yeah.
He says, I don't need this top. What I need is some help. So Spano almost showed the hand.
Yeah, he needs removal for Divining Top. Or not for top, for Metalworker.
Yeah.
And he's going to use top to find it.
Going to spend an Isle on a Brainstorm. Don't get a great look at the third card there for Lossett. But he very quickly lets that happen. And so now here's an attack for 3.
Yeah, and he has taken away Trading Post. He's taken away Gregg's ability to gain life. So this aggro plan still has some legs to it.
Going to spin the top one more time. Again, he did spin the top the first time on his upkeep to make sure that he drew the best card of the bunch. Now he's spinning again. So he's going to set those back. He's comfortable with the setup, as comfortable as he can be. Hasn't played a land yet for the turn. I think that's probably what he's asking the spotter. And it's a pretty important land to play. So I can understand. It's a Caracas, and we know this interaction with Vendilion Click. Might be one of the few ways he can work himself out of this. Spano drew a copy of Lodestone Golem, and now it's time to work all that metal. Oh boy. So how much mana do we have there? 12?
All right, so Metalworker reveals, yeah, 2 for each colorless mana. So that's 12 to start with. If you look at his hand, and then if you count the mana in play, he has 21 to work with this turn.
Not bad.
I mean, that's a lot. You can probably cast most of these things.
We're out of 1 spell per turn territory. And I actually think in this situation, if you're Lossett, you hope that your opponent's hand is just bad.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really know if, playing Caracas and then clicking Spano in his draw step really accomplishes all that much. You just kind of hope, okay, I hope you don't have, something great to do.
So 21 mana. You can get Titan and Wormcoil and Spine.
Yeah, we can do better than that.
No, wait, though. That's 22. That's 22.
That's a little too
you can't
much.
do it. No, it's 21 exactly. It's Wormcoil 6.
Yeah, 8, 7,
it's a
6.
6, 7, and 8.
Yep.
Yeah. But then you might... then you're tapping out. Then you could get Spell Pierced.
Yeah, that's it. That's the primary concern. Titan is step number 1. Spano's going after his mana. Not much of a surprise. Joe's going to add a bunch of it.
Yeah. Because Gregg has to add all his mana in big chunks, he can't actually... Well, he can if he wants to do the trick where he Stone Rains his opponent and then moves through combat to clear the mana pool. But he will burn 4 of his own mana that way.
Yeah. There is the mighty Golem.
I still think he's going to make that play. He just probably wants to get Vendilion Click off the table.
Yeah, I mean, Caracas obviously makes that difficult because that's Joe's last untapped land. But even if you just get it off of the table, like, temporarily,
Right.
it's probably good enough.
Yeah, I think he's waving his hand to show going through combat.
Yeah.
We will confirm there, though. See how many more things he wants to cast.
And he made 12 from the Metalworker, so he's got 4 left.
Gets 3 of Joe's lands. Now, he could also spine his own Sundering Titan and get all 3 of Joe's remaining lands.
You are really not a nice person. You.
Oh, this isn't a nice deck.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. Here's a Wormcoil engine.
That's what I would want to do here, is I would want to spine my own Sundering Titan. Then you have to deal, then how does he answer this Wormcoil when I take away, I guess a plow, but like once you take away all his lands.
There's Chalice and Trinisphere in play. Plow ain't going to do it.
Yeah, I think you spine your own Titan.
Yeah. Plow is not out for so many reasons. And Joe's going to pick this up. Yeah, now that the click's off the tip, he's going to replay the click. So he had the mana floating, so he Caracases it and then replays it.
Yeah, well, he's got to get rid of this spine.
I don't know if he sees that play. Okay, he does. Spine goes away. The Monolith was the draw.
I think I would have wanted to play the spine before the Wormcoil, so that if I got clicked in response, I would have 2 Wormcoils. Because now he can't make that play. Now Joe gets to play, he gets to play more Magic, I mean,
that's all I can really hope for. And Joe's hoping to probably peel Terminus.
I mean, Joe, yeah, he doesn't have double blue, so he can't stop the life gain. He needs a sword. No, that doesn't work because of Chalice. You're right. He needs a Terminus, but then what, right? Then he got rid of his own V-click.
Yeah.
Well, no. He can bounce the click, Terminus, then draw another blue source the next turn, then start again. It's bad news for Joe.
It's feeling hopeless, isn't it? As we try to work our way for solutions here for number 1 on our Season 3 leaderboard. It feels very, very difficult for him to work his way out of this situation.
Yeah, we'll see him draw, and it's a Mystic Gate. It's actually a pretty good land to have right now.
Yeah, one of his favorites. One of the ones that doesn't get taken out by the Sundering Titan, that's for sure.
Right, so even if the Sundering Titan gets taken out, then Joe's left with double white and double blue, which is pretty nice. But I mean, the not nice part is the board's just a mess.
Yeah. Lossett trying to figure out if he can attack, try to maybe play a damage race game, but Worm Coil messes that entire thing up. So not sure that plan's, even viable at this point. So all he can do is just pass the turn back, maybe with the intentions of blocking the Worm Coil engine and then bouncing it with Caracas. Spano picked up a copy of the Suva for the turn, so more mana. There's an attack. There is the block. Vidillion click in front of Worm Coil Engine, and Caracas will bounce it. So no life gain there as Worm Coil Engine does not trample, but 7 damage does come across.
And another Vesuva. This is going to be life gain on Gregg's side.
Smart play. I like that play.
I like it a lot.
Make sure nothing, no nonsense. He's got enough mana with Metalworker and Cloud Posts. But he doesn't really need to do too much. You also see that he's not willing to, deploy anything else and extend.
Yeah.
He's going to Vidillion click himself.
This is Vidillion click.
Yeah.
Joe is still online here.
I mean, he still can play Magic. You see him doing it.
Yeah.
He's trying.
So the Vidillion click is going to successfully fog the Worm Coil. He's still going to take 7 from the Sundering Titan.
Yeah. Lossett will draw a card.
And the bad news, so yes, he's gonna have to find a Terminus first. We'll start there.
And the bad news is...
the bad news is that how Sundering Titan reads, it's not a graveyard trigger, it's a leaves play trigger.
Yeah.
So when he finally gets rid of that Sundering Titan, he's gonna lose his lands.
He'll lose 3 more of them, that's for sure. Titan, really, really good card in this matchup.
It used to be, that guy saw play in Tooth and Nail alongside Kiki Jiki.
Kill all your lands.
That was really fun, because you'd get him, and then Kiki would make a copy, and then the copy would leave play.
That was not fun, actually. It was
It would just be all your lands.
It was actually 0 fun.
Well, the game's over, It was just a fancy way of saying the game's over.
I mean, that's cool if you're doing it to them. It's not cool if it's happening to you.
The thing is, even if you kill my Sundering Titan in response to the Kiki activation, you probably still lost all your lands.
Yeah. I lost to that a lot then.
Yeah, there's no... Removal doesn't break it up.
I was very anti-Tooth and Nail in my young days, and when I tried to play Tooth and Nail, I never drew it.
You were a young player who didn't like ramping into 9 mana win the game?
Correct. I actually hated it.
That's so much fun. A card that just reads win?
That's for you. You love Scape Shift,
really
you probably
big
love
things.
Tooth and Nail. Here's a Glimmer Post. That's going to gain 5 life. That's just not my style of Magic. I prefer losing to the deck.
You play Tron.
We should change the subject. Spellpierce is going to go on the bottom from Vidillion.
All right.
I've changed in my older days.
So you've gone from playing Control to casting 15 mana creatures.
Yeah,
all
absolutely.
Right.
You found a hole in my story.
All right, Joe is at 2. How will he survive through this turn? He gets another spin of the top.
Yeah, but I don't think he's going to find what he's looking for here.
No.
You see the Brainstorm. I think there's a top. Yeah, there's another top in his hand.
Well, he can Brainstorm and then spin top to go 1 deeper. It's ugly, but it does it.
He's got, actually, the Chalice says no, you can't.
Oh, boy, yeah, you're right. Chalice is...
The Chalice has no
There you
interest in
go.
letting Joe play any more Magic this game. He's going to extend the hand. Gregg Spano is going to win this match over Joe Lossett 2-0. Mud, Downs, Blood Red Miracles, pretty easily, but let's actually talk about what matters here. Obviously, Spano top 8 at our Season 1 Invitational in Charlotte. This is a big win for him. He beats a great player, but if you are in the Joe Lossett fan club, and many people are,